Primum non nocere. I am the firm believer of this. First of all, do not harm the patient. The most latest appeared symptom is most important symptom.
In Boga Mathematica, the third part, last third part, before the fourth part, Harry giving very little statement in one sentence. What you are saying. Just thank you very much.
Such lovely cases of psoriasis, and it's also for those naysayers who says I'll believe it when I see it. So once they see these cases, for sure they will believe in homeopathy. Also to call upon stage our last speaker for the day, Professor Dr. Rashid Akhtar, and he will share with us some experiences in dealing with autoimmune diseases with homeopathy. Dr. Rashid. May I also request Dr. Halloween to say some introduction for the speaker, please? Thank you.
Dr. Rashid Akhtar is the HOD of Organon of Medicine and Homeopathic Philosophy at Baxon's Homeopathic Medical College. He's a PG guide at Bhim Rao Ambedkar University, Agra. He's an examiner for PHMS and MD University exams. He has been a speaker at several national and international conferences. He is the director at Heilkunst Homeopathic Center in Greater Noida. Today, he'll be giving us a talk on my experience in dealing with autoimmune disease with homeopathy. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you for such a nice introduction. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Tanveer Bhai, Dr. M. Rao sir, and Homeopathy Middle East Organizing Committee for giving me the opportunity to share my experience with you all. And then I would like to say something like this deadly silence in the audience. Whether it is the mesmerizing effect of the previous speaker, it is your tiredness, or it is the beautiful lunch that keeping us in such a moment. It is a mixed up reaction. Thank you. One more thing I would like to say that as my topic is also, I am considering autoimmune disease. Since morning we have so many times hearing that this disease, that disease, but we frequently say that we treat the patient and not the disease. Then how far it is justified that if we say my experience with this autoimmune disease or like that wise? If any doubt for such thing is there, then I would suggest that aphorism number 15 will give you the reply for this. Just have a look of aphorism number 15 in a different way. One more thing, because I am the last person, I am, I think, a hindrance between your beautiful board party and this lecture. So I will not dishert you with lengthy lecture, and for which very frequently we are hearing that time management, one of the greatest myth of this world, because we cannot do anything to the time. What we can do is to do to myself. So I will try to manage myself within this frame of time, whatever 15 minutes is there, and for which I cannot stop myself by saying two important things, especially regarding the lecture, first lecture, opening batsman Dr. Rajendran and our sir Dr. Mukhtinder Singh. They have given us a very beautiful scientific approach as well as motivational viewpoint for those who are practicing homeopathy and those who are going to practice homeopathy. And or even I will say inspired by their lecture, I would like to say that those critics that we are facing since the time of Hahnemann, not from nowadays and today's, since the time of Hahnemann, if we remember Dr. Professor Hacker, then we all remember that how much struggle and resistance homeopathy is facing, or still homeopathy is growing. And for this I would like to say that कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा. And with all this opposition, we will gradually grow. And with reference to our first two speakers, I would like to say that we should not be disheartened by the critics, as well as we should not reply our critics with words. Rather, we should reply our critics with the experiments that these our previous first two speakers have shown us, the scientific world and the scientificity, all of these things. So thank you, sir, for such a nice presentation. I'm lucky that I was the part of that presentation. So for this, as I have to manage, so I will not go you the details of these common textbook things regarding autoimmune disease, immunity, autoimmunity, who said first time. I will come to directly to the cases. This is the first case, and again for this case, I want to say that if we open our textbook, even Harrison Practice of Clinical Medicine or Davidson Medicine, 20 years ago, diabetes mellitus was considered to be a lifelong persistent disease. But last 3 years, even allopaths are considering it that diabetes is reversible. And they say they have science. So many diseases, many conditions which was considered to be a persistent for lifetime, they have their prognosis in a different way in different times. What Dr. Mukhtinder Singh sir has told in the morning, that we don't need to change according to the science. The science has to change if they want to understand us. That was a very beautiful and touching comment. Similarly, why I am saying this, because this case I am presenting is a case of juvenile diabetes. And still today, everyone, whatever endocrinologist or diabetologist I have met and other physicians, they all have, even their textbook still says that for diabetes mellitus you can have different options, but for juvenile diabetes it is incurable, it is lifelong insulin dependent. Out of my 20 cases till now, I have presented this case because this case has shown me the fastest result. Otherwise, other cases have taken in the progress, but they have taken very long time. So this case was a case of juvenile diabetes. Patient was apparently well when he started complaining weight loss, itching on face after bathing. He visited to his local physician with lots of tests, and it was diagnosed as juvenile diabetes. Among the history, in past history, we are getting history of suppressed skin disease, and intrauterine life I am getting a history of retarded growth, IUGR. Based on these are the physical general of the symptoms. I'm not going to read because to save your time, you can go through this. This is his mental picture. This is my way of totality of symptom. If you can notice that certain words I have given in bold, certain in common, certain dark. And this is very important because one mistake I'm sorry, it is not for the part of those who are regularly repertorizing every symptoms, because repertory has its own way of modalities. But I remember one of the quotation of Kent, that sometimes physician have pages of case taking, but there is no case. And this happens only if we forget the very first italic word of aphorism number 153. The more striking. If we are not taking it into the consideration from the very first time, even before starting our case taking, during observation, then we will not be able to give a case the proper justice. For example, if I just start speaking in a very monotonous way, then how you will feel? I think just like a old saying, you will give me a small trophy for lecture and a large trophy for stopping the lecture. So this the most striking point and this intensity of the symptom is very important to consider. And by considering this intensity of symptom in Nash leader, in the very first remedy, last paragraph, Dr. Nash says that every case doesn't need repertorization. Certain case, according to the 153, if reflects its individuality, if it is not reflecting, then go into the tortism. So, in this case, those symptoms which are highlighted, they are the important symptom for considering its prescription. But this last part is also very important. Still, unfortunately, in our materia medica, even in repertory, the symptoms which we are getting in intrauterine life, they are not very much reflecting in our materia medica and repertory. We have to just correlate analogically and to prescribe. Very few materia medica I am getting this type of indication, even if Dr. H. A. Revert's philosophy in the chapter of temperament, you will find one of the importance of giving and taking the significance of intrauterine life. Dr. Fobister has given it very high importance, and in his prescription it was very much important for the prescribing and for selection of remedy. Based on this totality, I first prescribed him sulfur, but my main prescription is Calcarea phos, not sulfur. Again, I would like to give a reference that Pharmacodynamics by Richard Hughes. If you will read the chapter of Calcarea car, not Calcarea phos, he has given two beautiful cases of very complicated diseases in which before prescribing Calcarea car, he has prescribed 6, he has prescribed a dose of sulfur and then started Calcarea car. In our organon of medicine, we have many a times Hahnemann's advice of intercurrent remedy. In our Allen's note, we frequently read when a well-selected remedy fails to act, when your case goes on standstill, and we name it intercurrent remedy and we frequently prescribe between the prescription. But I would like to say, if we get knowledge or if we have to improve from others' experience, then this intercurrent remedy we can prescribe before the beginning of prescription, and in this way, especially in acute condition, I have very good success. Like even during the course of this COVID-19, many good prescriptions was done with prescription of sulfur, China, or certain times Sorinum before prescribing according to certain indications. No doubt here the indication was suppression of a skin disease and the thermal of the patient. So then after Calcarea Phos 12C, here I have mentioned 1/11. This may sound odd, but it is just my way of writing it. But I would like to say, this is the way of prescribing when Hahnemann was not started practicing LM potency or new dynamization, and he was not getting result with 1 or 2 dose of centesimal dose. This is the phase that he has discussed in the footnote of 246, but mainly in the preface of the 3rd volume and 4th volume of Chronic Disease. And here you will find the indication when Hahnemann advised to give it in liquid with each time with some improved successive strokes, and it has a very good result. And especially in certain cases I used to prescribe LM potency. In certain cases when I give centesimal, then I give it in a liquid form rather than direct in the globules form. Mostly only placebo I prescribe in globules, rest in only liquid form. These are the follow-ups. Here you can see not taking insulin. This case was having a video proof, but due to some technical problem here, video was not allowed and it was not sent through the mail, so I have to remove this. Calcarea Phos, then it was when I shifted to 30, then I limited the dose, not into the regular interval, but I have just stopped it. This is the report. You can see this, it was diagnosed by this. These all are before. Here you can see this is also having associated kidney troubles. And last you can see here this. This is one of the main significant diagnostic point of juvenile diabetes, which was less than 1. You can say this, and this does not improve in many cases. That's why patient has to be dependent on insulin. And as I have shown you that patient has stopped taking insulin, and since this time he is not on insulin, still his blood sugar fasting, PP both are under control, and C peptidase has also from 4.9 to 3.1. I think one reminder has already been given to me, so I will not be in a mood that whatever I have eaten, everything I will vomit here. It is better to listen peacefully and happily. So if I start next case, it will take another time. So thank you very much for a kind and precious. When the patient is on allopathic medication, especially if patient is on steroid, if patient is taking diabetic pills, if patient is on hypertensive drug, we never stop the medicine suddenly. It is only after many months with gradual tapering by missing one day, one dose, and gradually this case is also not in a case of 6 weeks or 1 month. It is minimum, earliest is 2 years.
I missed that in your lecture that you gradually
it is-
withdrew the insulin. I didn't hear that in your lecture. That's why I asked
I
this
have
question.
done that because of the time. That's why I have stopped with one case only, because things goes into misinformation. I have shown that patient has stopped. How stopped I have not shown you. Because this one case, when I take online classes, I take 1.5 hour for just one case.
Got
And
you.
so large size I have to fit into 20 minutes.
Got you. Got you.
And I will suggest never stop sudden medication. It will go into a withdrawal effect and it will almost always fatal for the patient.
And growing in a very large number of symptoms. I want to ask you, which are symptoms more important to us? Those are in beginning, appear in beginning, and those are appear in large number of symptoms.
Thank you very much, sir. Very important question as far as case processing and evaluation of symptom is concerned. And for this, I would like to say you two things. Number one, again, I would, from homeopathic work, so many examples are there. By one example, I am giving you from out of our fraternity. I would suggest one book, Love, Medicine and Miracle by Bernice Sackett. Just read one sentence from page number 99. It is not the disease which is curable or incurable, it is the patient who is curable or incurable. So, it is what type of disease is not important for the prognosis, what type of patient is, that is important for the prognosis. Even if such type of case, if the patient have limited symptoms, and because of this, if you read Hahnemann's Multiamedica Cura and chronic disease, Hahnemann has given time that after this many hours this symptom develop, after this many hours this symptom develop, and through this, if you go and read Herring, even in Boker Synoptic Keynote, in the last Herring has given the most latest appeared symptom is most important symptom. As far as the medicine is concerned, then it is applicable for the patient too. Thank you very much.
In Boger Multiamedica, the last third part, before the fourth part, Harry giving stated very little statement in one sentence what you are saying. Thank you very much.